So which plane is it that actually determines the future? Is it the earth plane or the spiritual plane? Which realm determines the future, and which one is the first, and which one is the one that has to draw from that? So when I was saying the Lord's Prayer, the part that is, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I think that's a strange thing to say. Why are we asking God to do his will here on earth the way he does it in heaven? Like, well, why would we have to ask that? And so when I asked God about this particular thing, which one is the original? Which one is the one that actually determines the future? And I believe, and this is my opinion, that I believe that God was telling me that it was the earth. It was the earth realm. Now, why? Well, God has everything. He has all plans and he knows all things. But the earth was given to man, and the earth was given over to his authority. And it's very much like somebody giving you the deeds to land or the deeds to your house. As to whether or not that person sets foot on that land after they've passed over those deeds or into that house is completely now up to you. And so are we actually chasing the spiritual realm, or is the spiritual realm following what we are doing on the earth? That's the question. And I do believe that earth is the answer. It's very much like if you decide that you want a new kitchen, you go into the store. They already have the designs. They have already got the blueprints. They've already got the cupboards and the granite and the everything. They have it. The only difference is you need to actually go and choose which one before that one will be placed in your house. Why? Because you have authority over it. So I just thought it was interesting. Why are we asking God, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven? Why are we saying that? Why are we saying that if the earth life mimics what is happening in the spiritual realm? Why do we say that? So I'm going to quickly read here from 1 Samuel chapter 16, and it's verse 27. As Samuel turned to go, Saul tried to hold him back and tore the hem of his robe. And Samuel said to him, "The Lord has torn the kingdom of Israel from you today and has given it to someone else, one who is better than you." So we already know that God had rejected Saul as king because of what Saul did. But it wasn't actually put down in black and white. It wasn't actually spoken out loud until what happened? Until Saul tore the hem of Samuel's robe. When he tore the hem of Samuel's robe, Samuel then responded with what God had been holding in, that he had rejected Saul as king. And I believe what we're seeing here is an earthly original that correlates with God's heart and God's purpose or God's design, but it's being brought in now by Samuel. It's being brought in by Saul tearing the robe, but it's also being brought in then by Samuel, who actually declares it out. And the other verse I want to read is actually Ezekiel 22, and it's verse number 30, where God says, "I looked for someone who might rebuild the wall of righteousness that guards the land. I searched for someone to stand in the gap in the wall so I wouldn't have to destroy the land, but I found no one." Let me just read that again. I looked for someone who might rebuild the wall of righteousness that guards the land. So, okay, God, so you're saying that the land is vulnerable? Because he is looking for someone to stand in the gap where there is something missing, to guard the land, to guard the guards of the land. I searched for someone to stand in the gap in the wall so I wouldn't have to destroy the land, but I found no one. God is waiting on your authority. He is waiting on your authority. You know, this is your life. This is your space. This is your place. God is not going to barge right in. You have to open the door and say, please come in. You're so welcome here. And I really do believe that that goes for really anything. Excuse me. I believe that goes for anything in our lives. We know God's got a good plan for us. We know that God has purpose. We know that He knows everything and there's nothing that surprises Him. But God is waiting for your authority to step in. This is my own revelation of what I feel like God is showing me. And I'm sure there's plenty of people that would disagree, and that's okay too. I believe that He's showing me that we must bring about first the ideas that He has. That we must first decide what the layout of our kitchen is going to be before He will ever bring it in. God wants people to stand in the gap of so many things, so many areas, so many people. He's just waiting for someone to stand in the gap. The gap that's in the wall of righteousness that guards the land. Because there was obviously there was a protective thing around there, and God just wanted somebody to step in and declare His goodness and His mercy and His grace. You know, can we do that actually when we see holes in walls? There's so many holes in walls, and I'm not just talking about walls. I'm talking about people. I'm talking about situations, and I'm talking about circumstances. There are so many holes in walls. And God is searching for someone to stand up and say, let me just step in there. Let me just step in there. Let me stand in that part where I can see that there is nobody doing this. There's nobody in this place. And let me declare God's goodness, God's mercy, God's salvation, and His love. And I'll just leave this with you there. Bit of a longer one. God wants people who are willing to speak in authority, the authority that He has already given, the authority He's passed over to us. He wants us to actually step up and step into that place and just welcome Him in, because he's handed the deeds over. You're in charge of this. You need to welcome in, and you need to bring it in, and then God will move. God will bring in the kitchen. Awesome. I want a new kitchen. That would be awesome. God bless you.